there can be no meaning in such a pathetic existence in comparison to such perfection. And that only by ignoring the possibility of the existence of God and building our own lives can we possibly achieve any meaning.
Well, I think you're brilliant. I think you're absolutely brilliant. I think you're absolutely right. God is so much bigger than I am. It is absolutely absurd to think that God loves me. I mean, if that's not the height of human arrogance, I don't know what is. So I agree with you totally. For me to stand out here and say God loves you and God loves me is total stupidity. Unless God has revealed that. And that is exactly what Jesus Christ claimed. Jesus Christ claimed that God actually does love you, has the hairs of your head numbered, that you matter to him. Now, if I were to conclude that on my own, it would be sheer human arrogance.
Well, you're welcome to have that as a tenet of faith, but that's nothing established. And in the face of such massive power, we clearly have no meaning. That flies in the face of what you said earlier. If we have meaning, if we have any significant value out of the vastness of the universe, out of the vastness of God's power, that means we're much more significant than we are. And that's just contradictory.
It's not contradictory in the slightest. If God chooses to create us for a purpose, for a reason, to love and worship him and to love and serve each other, then it means we really do have meaning. What is meaningless is your second point, which is, because I have the ability to create my own meaning, I have ultimate meaning. That's rubbish. You can create your own meaning and say your own meaning in life is to slit people's throats. Or you can create your own meaning and say my purpose in life is to feed hungry people. It really ultimately doesn't matter because your own meaning is created in your head, which means it doesn't really matter whether you're Adolf Hitler or Mother Teresa. It's just whatever you choose. And when you begin to realize that, you begin to understand the total absurdity of life. There is no ultimate meaning and purpose to your life. Your number came up in a Monte Carlo game. You and I are freak accidents of nature. Now, we might want to get sentimentally sloppy and start saying, oh, but my life has meaning. Fine, create your own meaning, but have the intellectual honesty and the courage to realize it's totally arbitrary, it's totally relative, it's just a fantasy that I've created.
Okay. You know, that it's certainly easy to follow that path, and but that's not really where I'm coming from. We have no control of our creation. You know, whether it was a god or two 20-somethings drinking too much one night. Ultimately, we can't affect how we are created, when we are created, or why we are created. That's beyond our control. Mm-hmm. So. It's really senseless to talk about that because we gain nothing, because we have no way of controlling that. So, but after the point of your creation, you have control over your existence. And so really, it does matter whether you choose to be a doctor or a lawyer, whether you choose to work for world peace or you choose to slit people's throats, because we choose to recognize people who do good things for society through awards, Nobel Prizes, peace prizes and such. And people do feel the effect of people who work to make people's lives better. And those are personal choices that people make independent of the nature of their existence. And we do punish people who choose paths in life that are counter to the productivity of society. You know, people are welcome to choose to be murderers, and we are welcome to choose to stop them.
Yeah. We, because we have free will, can choose to say black folks are 3/5 the value of white folks in the Dred Scott decision. We, because we have a free will, can say Jews should be gassed in gas chambers if we're Nazis. We, because we have free will, can say, well, we're part of the power brokers of South Africa, and therefore apartheid greases the economic wheels of our society, so we will continue apartheid. We're free to do anything. My point is, if there is no God, there is no mind prior to the human mind who defines meaning or morality, which means it really doesn't matter whether you squash life, respect life, disrespect life. It's all just a crapshoot. And that's what Camus and Sartre and Nietzsche had the intellectual courage and honesty to face. That if there is no God, life is a meaningless jumble. Make of it what you want, but ultimately it's insignificant because we're all going to the same spot, the manure pile. We all become extinct fertilizer when we die. which means life is ultimately meaningless. It's that simple.
You clearly, not to strike an offense, but you clearly misunderstand Sartre's work. Sartre does say that there is no a priori meaning to anything, but that's not to say that life is a crapshoot. Hitler's Germany was destroyed in flames. So was World War II Japan. Apartheid ended because people who chose to help other people worked harder, fought harder, and beat out these people. That's all there is to it. And Sartre's philosophy isn't about hopelessness. It's about, instead of comparing ourselves to an infinity we can't understand and feeling our insignificance and giving our lives to that power because we're lost in it, we choose to build what we want out of the mud we were born in and make something better. And very clearly there are forces for that in the world. There are people who choose to do that, and they do win out against the forces of apartheid and Nazism and fascism.
I hate to tell you, but the good die young. Not all good people win. Not all evil people lose. The good die young too frequently. And I disagree strongly with you. Sartre understood the meaninglessness of life, as did Camus, and then they said, go on and create your own meaning. Fine, but have the honesty to realize that your own meaning is totally arbitrary, totally relative, totally subjective. But I love what Sartre said just before his death. Just before he died, Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, I do not believe that I am a product of chance, a speck of dust in the universe, but rather someone who is expected, prepared, prefigured. In short, a being whom only a creating hand could put here. And this idea of a creator refers to God. Protested fellow philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, how should one explain this senile act of a turncoat? Sartre understood, just before his death, my atheism is wrong. There's far too much order and design in this cosmos for there to be no God. There's got to be an intelligent mind, a designer, a creating hand. And this idea of a creator refers to God. Bravo, Sartre. You can't escape the evidence. Albert Einstein tried to escape it. But when Arno Penzias and the other founders discovered the Big Bang Theory, Einstein, although he put a fudge factor into the equation and tried to escape the implications of the Big Bang, eventually was challenged by his associates to acknowledge his mathematical dishonesty. Einstein did that, acknowledged there is a beginning of the creation, which means there's a creator. And he had to move out of his pantheism into theism, belief that indeed there is an intelligent mind, a creator behind the cosmos. The evidence is overwhelming. And when you look at your life, at the way God has hardwired you, you have an innate drive for meaning and purpose. Well, that should point you to a designer. If you have designer genes, guess what? Those designer genes point to a designer. And if you have an innate drive in life to understand meaning, then it points you to the fact that you were made for a purpose. I don't know what that purpose is, but you have that innate drive, and that points you to you were created for a purpose.